So this is the tool that we'll be using. It's from Chapter 6 of the OELA English Learner Toolkit, which is a chapter about English learners with disabilities. And this is tool number 2 within that chapter, considering the influence of language differences and disabilities on learning behaviors. Okay, so first, within oral comprehension and listening, if an English learner is not responding to verbal directions, just raise your hand if you think that might be due to a language difference, or if you might be inclined to think that that could be a learning disability. Okay. We have a bunch of people raising their hands. Okay, so we have a bunch of hands raised and a bunch of hands not raised, so maybe split on this one. So possible indicator of a language difference, if you know how much vocabulary they know, maybe you use some of the data sources that we mentioned before, and you know that they don't have a lot of English vocabulary, but that they would understand or respond to things in their home language, then you might think, yeah, that's a language difference. Possible indicators of a learning disability could be if they seem confused when given verbal directions in either the home language or English, which again you may know from school. You might have to find that out from parents or others. Then it could be due to a learning disability. So possible data sources that we could use, as I mentioned, their English language proficiency score, the lost links or others, and conversations with parents. So if we wanted to find out if Isabella Rodnan was not responding to verbal directions, maybe we could look into those data sources and try to figure it out. Okay, so the second one we want to look at is within speaking and oral fluency, if a student is unable to orally retell a story. Quick hand raising, would you be inclined to think an English learner wouldn't be able to orally retell a story due to a language difference or to a disability? Not seeing any hands raised so far. Oh, there's one. And it's hard to tell, of course, as we've seen. Okay, a couple of hands raised. A couple of people think it's language. Maybe others haven't answered. Others think it's due to disability. All right, so let's look. One way, oh, Tamara said could be either, depending on level of English. Great, yes. So possible indicator of a language difference is if the student doesn't comprehend a story due to lack of understanding and background knowledge in English. So maybe think about some of the background knowledge and background language that a student would need for that particular story. Possible indicators of a learning disability if they have difficulty retelling the story in their home language as well. Again, it's so important to understand to the extent that we're able what their abilities are in their home language. So if Isabella Rodnan displayed this behavior, maybe we would want information from formative assessments that test reading comprehension and story retelling separately, so that maybe we could try to discriminate between those different skills, or assessment that tests story retelling skills in both languages. We might also be able to use screening tools that test memory or sequencing skills. Okay, so within phonemic awareness and reading, if a student is unable to decode words correctly, might you be more inclined to think for an English learner, yeah, probably due to English language proficiency, or would you think, yeah, maybe we're looking at a disability? Of course, as we found, we don't know for sure, but what would you think more likely? All right, so we've got one for language, couple for language, 3. All right, so we've definitely got some that think language, some that think disability. And Kemen Hawley is asking, is this in their language or English? This is in English. So indicators of a possible language difference is if a sound doesn't exist in their home language, it might be difficult for them to pronounce it. Indicators of possible learning disability if they consistently confuse letters and words that look alike or make letter reversals or substitutions that are not related to their home language. So possible data sources that we could use to figure it out. Student background information, perhaps talking to an ESL specialist, and we know there are a number of them in this room right now, this virtual room, regarding whether the sounds the student is struggling with are present in their home language. So trying to find out a little bit more about their home language, possibly from an ESL specialist. And Kathy Bosco is also making that point. This depends on their language and the similarities in home language. So we have a number of people who are great resources for our group who may have some experience trying to figure this out as well. Screeners in both English and the home language, and other kinds of formative assessments that could be used as well. Okay. Under the umbrella of reading comprehension and vocabulary, perhaps we see a student who doesn't understand a passage read, although they may be able to read with fluency and accuracy. So do you think, Gut, that this would be language or disability? All right, we've got a few voting for probably language and some voting for probably disability. We've been pretty split throughout. All right, so we might think it's a language difference if then we also see that the student doesn't have the background knowledge for the topic. So maybe they just don't know about the topic, and so they don't understand it because there's some vocabulary or other kinds of background knowledge that they'd need in order to understand this passage. Maybe we also see they're unable to use contextual clues to assist with meaning because those are also unfamiliar to them. And that if you see improvement over time as English proficiency increases, then it's pretty good evidence that it's due to a language difference. Possible indicator of a learning disability is if they don't remember or comprehend what was read in either language, their home language or English, if you don't see improvement over time. So possible data sources we could use, again, formative assessments. For this, we could use formative assessments of reading comprehension in both languages if possible, so that you could see the difference between the two languages, as well as a pre-reading assessment of background knowledge. So if you could figure out if the student does have the background knowledge needed, that could help you out a lot. And you'd want to do that with scaffolds such as images, possibly translations into their home language to find out if they do know the information that you're talking about and have the background knowledge for that. You can also talk with parents about their reading abilities in the home, again, including parents as partners in this very important process.